The Iran war is straining old alliances in so many ways right now. Take the transatlantic relationship between the US and Europe. You've probably heard a lot about that recently, and the whole diplomatic turbulence over the use of European military bases by Washington to attack Iran. But when it comes to the Middle East, there's a country now on the front line of this conflict that is facing a huge test. And that's here, Oman. It sits right on the southern end of the Arabian Peninsula, sharing borders with Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Yemen. And across the water is Iran. And Oman has a nickname in diplomatic circles, the Switzerland of the Middle East. But does the outbreak of war in the region now threaten its famous neutrality?
Oman's neutrality has routinely been under threat. There are a number of regional and international players that have disliked Oman's stance as a neutral actor and its relentless push for diplomacy and its open reluctance to not just join operations but also support operations, including by its partners and allies.
That's Cinzia Bianco, an expert on the Gulf region. She's done extensive research on the history and alliances that dictate today's thinking and behaviour in the Gulf states. And together, we're going to show you Oman's unique position in the region and explain how this new unfolding conflict has put its policy of all friends, no foe under renewed pressure. And to understand that, we need to start by looking at Oman's religious heart and how it has shaped its alliances.
The religious factor in Oman plays a role in their foreign policy, although that is it's only part of the story, but it is an important part of the story. The fact that Oman is the only Ibadi majority country in the region, that sort of has an impact because Ibadism is a third way in between Sunnism, which is the strand of Islam embraced by the other Arab Gulf monarchies, and Shiism, which is obviously the strand of Islam embraced by Iran. And that sort of third way, Ibadism, has really, it has in itself the idea that you can reconcile these different positions. And that has proven instrumental, especially at the various times throughout the history when the geopolitical conflict between the Arab regional powers and Iran had a very clear also religious and societal connotation. It had really trickled down and had been thoroughly embraced by the clerics, and then it had obviously been absorbed by society as well.
So what about Oman's relationship with Iran? Specifically, what do we know about that? And how has it developed over time? Well, first, let's look at the geography here. Iran sits just across from Oman, separated by a small stretch of water, but it's an important one, really important. And at its northern tip is the Strait of Hormuz, a critical choke point through which 20% of the world's crude oil usually flows. Iran now claims it's closed this vital waterway, and that's been hitting us all with energy prices and on the global markets. And it comes under both Iranian and Omani control. But the ties between the two countries, they go much deeper.
Oman and Iran have always had constructive, positive relations, both under the Shah and then after the Islamic Revolution with the Islamic regime. Iran has also supported operationally Sultan Qaboos has it quelled an insurgency in the southern part of Oman, a region called Dhofar, which threatened the very being of his rule. So that historical precedent sort of really sets the tone for the relationship between the two, because not only Iran has never been involved in destabilizing Oman, on the contrary, it has been actively involved in stabilizing it. And the geopolitical geopolitical reasons for the positive relations between the two sides are that they share the Strait of Hormuz. Oman is the one Gulf monarchy that has oversight over the Strait of Hormuz, and that is shared with Iran. That has led to inevitably having working relationship, especially at the level of their naval forces, but also more widely speaking at the political level. And this positive political channel has been used by the United States as well as regional players and other international actors to basically create a channel with Iran and negotiate on Iran's nuclear program as well as other issues, for example, exchange of political prisoners or freeing of political prisoners from Iran, that because Iran really only trusts deeply Oman as a mediator or a facilitator, even more than they would trust Switzerland, which has also been working in that sense.
And that trust has been key in negotiations over the years between the United States and Iran over Tehran's nuclear program. Oman recently mediated talks between the two sides in Geneva before the war started. But perhaps most famously, the country is credited with playing a vital role in facilitating the discussions that eventually led to the now defunct 2015 Iran nuclear deal.
Oman has provided a effective channel between the United States and Iran multiple times throughout history. For example, during the first Gulf War in Iraq, the Americans were looking for a channel to communicate to the Islamic Republic their desire of sort of not enlarging the conflict and not engulfing Iran into the war, and Oman provided that channel. And then in the 2000s, as the nuclear negotiations began, Oman was involved almost immediately by the Europeans and then by the United States. And it did play a pivotal role in negotiating the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action signed in 2015, the so-called Iran nuclear deal, the one that Trump withdrew from in 2018, just 3 years later. Despite all of that, Oman still was very active in supporting the potential of the US rejoining the JCPOA under the Biden administration or negotiating a different deal under the second Trump administration.
But right now, that ability to bring these two warring sides together looks to be on very shaky ground.
At a time when neither Iran nor the United States are interested in this diplomatic channel, then Oman has no leverage on Iran. And it has also no capabilities to force the opening of the Strait of Hormuz. So as a relatively smaller state with less military capabilities than even some of its neighbors, such as the United Arab Emirates, I guess it really has no choice than being a passive bystander of what is going on, despite the fact that they are also much affected. Oman is prioritizing finding diplomatic off-ramps to a war that it believes could lead to an even more catastrophic scenario, such as a failed state in Iran.
So Oman looks set to stick to diplomacy as this war unfolds. But at what cost to its global standing as a neutral mediator and backdoor channel between Iran and the world?